So welcome. We are so glad you are here for our Nurturing Safety Anywhere Masterclass. My name is Nikki Straza, and I'm going to be our host and moderator today. And with me, I have some fantastic women with me who bring a wide variety of experience. And so I'm going to let each of them introduce themselves to help us just know a little bit about each of them. So Luann, why don't we start with you?
Well, it is my pleasure and welcome everyone. This is a fabulous way to spend a Thursday evening just talking about what does safety mean to us. And I guess, thank you for letting me start. Safety for me is all about me. Because if I start being focused on me and making sure that I'm safe in my world, then the rest follows through. But I need to do that first within myself, then the community, then the home, then the school, then the work. That all kinds of comes into play. But trusting yourself and knowing yourself and learning your own triggers to stay safe within yourself is a really big thing for me. I'm a registered social worker and I look forward to spending an hour with you.
Thank you so much, Luann. And you're right, that's a powerful foundation. Wanda, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hey everyone. My name is Wanda and I am a filmmaker and a storyteller. And I'm looking forward to having this conversation with you, specifically around home and school and safety there. And it's good to be with you tonight.
Thank you so much, Wanda. Jill.
I'm Jill Weatherhead, and I'm a life and wellness coach. I'm also an author. I've got a book published called 90 Days to Spark Your Beauty. I do blogging, and I'm going to talk to you about safety and community.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And my name is Nikki Straza. I am a certified flourishing life coach, and I love to support the workplace and nurturing healthy, safe workplaces so that every employee and staff member can thrive. And so I'm going to be sharing that perspective this evening as well. And so we're really grateful to have you all here. Thank you for joining us. If you haven't already, please make sure that you drop your name and where you're from today in the chat, because we would love to hear from you. We are going to have a few moments of question and answer and conversation. So we hope you'll join us in the chat or throw your camera on and share with us in person. We would love for that to happen. So to get our conversation started, I thought we would just go through our panel and open up the conversation around what is safety. And Luann, you kind of kicked us off with a great foundation. When we talk about safety, for you, it's a very personal matter. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, I believe that we know when we're not safe. We get the niggly feeling. We usually comes along with some depression, some giving up of our freedoms or our own wishes and wants, and focuses on the outside, making someone else safe, happy instead of ourselves. And so for me, I was in a marriage where I was terribly unsafe and scared and not looking after myself at all and doing behaviors that were very unproductive to my own safety in order to survive in that world. And one day I had just had it and I wanted to live a different life, but I needed to make that decision. I wasn't relying upon someone else to make that for me, carry me along, drag me along, whatever the story can be. What I knew to be true was that my safety was my own responsibility. And so when you feel unsafe, you know,
I love
therefore,
that.
you need to go to what does that mean to go towards safety? And it's hard. Like none of this is easy. If you're in an unsafe situation, getting out of an unsafe situation is hard and you're worth it. It's very important that you remember you're worth it.
Oh, Luann, I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to share with us a little bit later. And I really appreciate that you introduced the personal responsibility side that we have when it comes to nurturing safety, because sometimes we get stuck in that trap that safety is everyone else's job to do for me. And that is a part of our role. But you're right, we have to own that for ourselves with our own boundaries. So I'm looking forward to learning more about that. And Wanda, we have a role to play not only in taking care of ourselves and that responsibility, but we have a role to play in how we create safety for others. What has that been like for you, and what have you been learning about safety in this regard?
Yeah, that's such a great question. Thanks, Nikki. So the experience for me of not being seen or heard or welcome by key caregivers in my life as a child, that was really critical to my development. When it came to my ideas, my creativity, my uniqueness, my skills, as well as when I was bullied in school, it was devastating for me. It impacted how secure I felt about all aspects of my life. But when I was listened to, when I was seen, when I was heard, when I was valued for who I am, that is when I felt safe. That is when I felt secure and valued. And then I was able to contribute because I felt that safety and security.
That is so powerful. And I can't wait to dive deep with what you're going to bring with us for us tonight, because I know we're going to learn some really insightful lessons. And I really appreciate how you talked about that contribution, because that is a part of that community conversation. And Jill, you are a self-proclaimed globetrotter, and you're here to talk to us about community. Does contribution play a role in that? And what is safety looking like for you when it comes to community?
Well, I think first, when you think about the safety part, is if you feel that you could be yourself, that's the first clue that you feel safe. If you feel like you have to put up a wall, then you probably don't feel safe. And so when you go into a new community, perhaps consider a gate versus a wall so that you don't give up your whole self until you know the people. But I think it's important to recognize that we weren't created to live one on one. We were created
Mm.
to live in community and to work together. That's a very strong belief of mine. And I feel that we've lost that in my generation, and not just since the events of 4 years ago, but I feel like our society has shifted in such a way that we seem to have lost that. And so, what I want to talk about a little bit later is just talking about the fact of it is more than just us. We're a unit, and we that is expanded beyond just me. Although me has to be safe, like Luann said, and I am worth it, like Wanda said, and together we can actually support each other to be safe.
I really love that. And that is true in the workplace as well. And like you have said, there's so much shifting in our culture now, and we're seeing that in the workplace as well. The shift from, kind of a command and control style of leading to a place where the person is valued and at the center, and where trust can emerge and safety can flourish. And so we're looking forward to kind of digging into that deeper. Again, I would love to encourage you to just use the chat. Wanda's going to be watching that, so we'll bring those questions, if you have questions or comments, into our discussion time halfway through and at the end as well. So to get us started, Luann, you've already given us some really great teasers, but take us now on a bit of a deep dive on what it actually means to take care of safety for ourselves.
So, like I said already, it's actually according to you. So, what I think is safe for you is irrelevant. What you think
Mm.
is safe for me is irrelevant. Safety is, without question, all about you and how you feel. I think that if you're not dialed into yourself, your first job is to trust yourself.
Mm.
So, how would you feel if you felt safe within? All these words are big old mess, because it's a big old mess as life. Life is all about comfort and health and care and security and insecurity and unhappiness and all those kinds of things. When you're safe, you will know that you can be in a situation that Jill and Wanda and yourself have talked about, Nikki, that isn't safe, but you're okay because you know and you trust you can morph yourself back into safety. You can dial out, oh, sorry, pay attention, dial back in.
Mm. Yeah, that is such a powerful thing. Thank you.
And when you know you're not safe, for heaven's sakes, just say no. We don't use the word no enough. We tend to be people pleasers. We tend to want people to like us. And in doing so, it's a good thing. But there are times when you know it's not, the time isn't now. The time right now is no. This is not where I need to be. This is not what I need to hear. This is not what I need to see. And I'm going back to pay attention to my gut and the squiggly feelings that I have. And I'm going to find me some safety. So make the decision to be safe. It's not easy. It's not, once you practice it, it gets easier and easier. Continue the conversation on how you are and how you ensure that you're safe in your life with your own thoughts. Honestly, we say the most unkind things to ourselves that we would never say to another person. So let's start by that. Let's start by loving ourselves, taking those opportunities to say, well done, Luann. Well done. Because you know what? We do great things every day, but we typically don't think about them. We think about the other thoughts, the ones that are not productive and they're not kind. Think about your safety in your relationships. And I don't just mean that someone has physically assaulted you. That's horrible. Get the hell out. Go find your big time safety. I'm talking about when you don't have a voice, or you don't have comfort, or you're wondering why the heck you're there. Those are the times when you can dig in, go into deep into your heart and bring it up front and say, this relationship isn't feeding me. This isn't working for me, and make that decision. And here's your beliefs. You know, so many people have challenging upbringings. And Wanda, you know, you've been so kind in sharing your own personal experience. We've all, at these ages and at these parts of our lives, we've all had experiences. Great, bad, really bad, yeah, some okay. But you know what? You have to think about what your beliefs and what's going to bring you back to you in a positive and productive and healthy and happy way, so you can be great in your own skin. I really use that phrase a lot. How do you feel in your own skin? Because when you're unsafe, your skin gets that crawly kind of creepy kind of feeling, and your gut kind of goes, ooh. So pay attention to your skin. Pay attention to you, because you're worth it.
Oh, Luann, that is so powerful. And I appreciate how you have invited us to listen to our thoughts, to listen to and notice our beliefs and notice how we're treating ourselves, and that we have power to create safety within our own selves by how we treat ourselves. And that is so, so powerful. And we're going to move on to another aspect of listening. So, Wanda, tell us what you've learned about listening. I think you're muted.
There, I'm unmuted now. Thank you. I just want to take a moment to have you just listen. What do you hear? What are you listening to? I know the story of listening because it was an intimate story. listening actually saved my life. And it is fitting that I'm telling this story uh, as a story because I am a filmmaker and a creativity and wellness coach. And the origins of story actually come from a time when people were hungry for community and for an answer to their loneliness. Give me a moment here. There we go. Today, I want to tell you my story of listening, the true healer, because listening saved my life. And one of my favorite storytellers, Jan Yashinsky, says, change begins when we listen to one another's story. And I like to say that change begins when we listen to one another, period, because neurologically, it is shown that our brains chemically change when we really listen. Cortisol brings focused attention. Oxytocin creates empathy and connection. And as these chemicals mix, changes in behavior can result because trust is earned and we connect more deeply. Safety is created and barriers are removed. According to Webster's dictionary, to listen means, and feel free to read with me with your mute on, to hear what someone has said and to understand that it is serious, important, or true. It also means to pay attention to sound or to hear something with thoughtful attention. I just want to ask you to take a moment and notice the key words in bold. When I was about 3 years old, I began to experience neglect. Now, neglect is traumatic and is the opposite of listening. And that is the reason that I chose to talk about listening for my story. And listening is the answer to neglect. And it literally saved my life. So, what is neglect? Read it with me with your mute on. Neglect means to give little attention or respect to. It means to disregard, to leave undone or unattended to. And that is the opposite of listening. One of the ways that I was neglected was I was expected to know things that I was not taught. And if I did not follow these rules, I was punished. Rules like being too chubby or too out of a box thinker or not being educated, pretty, or popular enough. I have forgiven and know now that my parents and schoolmates were doing the best that they could at the time. Much of what I experienced was unintentional neglect, but as a child and a teen who was looking for her world to give her some answers and to provide a safe place to belong, these responses hurt me and left me feeling very alone and afraid. So, listening is the opposite of neglect. Say this with me with your mute on. Neglect is to give little attention to or respect to disregard. Listening is a way that we can instead connect, understand, and learn. It is a way to healing. It is the answer to neglect and one of the greatest ways we can create safety. How do I know? Because even though I was bullied and neglected both at home and school from a very young age, somehow I made it. The main reason I made it was because someone listened and I felt seen and heard. Trust was established. First, God listened. I realized that maybe some of you do not believe in God, and that is okay. I do. I spent a lot of time in my bedroom alone praying to God when I was little because I was so hurt. But each time I prayed, I gained strength. And one of my favorite verses became Hebrews 13:5. I will never leave you. Of course, the neglect was very confusing for me as a child. And I had parents who told me that they loved me and they did their best to do that. They provided for me all that I needed physically. And yet, when I expressed my opinions and ideas, I felt the sting of unacceptance. And then to be bullied in school on top of it all, I felt stressed everywhere I went. Now I know that it was because I could not attach securely. I did not feel secure, welcome, or valued for who I was by key people in my life. And thankfully, I started to find people who did listen and hear me. Friends, teachers, mentors, and college friends were the beginning of healing for me. And then when I married John, who listened emphatically, and by rephrasing, I felt safe at home for the very first time. And even when we could not have children or adopt, something was tough in our business or family, or when I had a serious car accident, I felt that safety and security because he listened. And that leads me to the last reason that I have healed from neglect and am speaking with you today. I listened to myself. I committed to therapy and found healing, which Luann talked about. And on your screen are the consequences of neglect and a summary about what characteristics make a great listener. I am actually literally a miracle when I look at all of these. So, do you see why I chose to have this twisted wire as my story symbol? The wire represents this human story, my story of listening and neglect. In anyone's story, like mine, there is both pain and joy. But when we really listen, when we really seek to understand and hear one another, when we pay thoughtful attention to another, that is when we feel safe and when we heal. That is when what is being shared becomes gold. So, what difference would it make in your world, in our world, if everyone you met was a safe, great listener? It's the listeners that are heroes, in my opinion, not the storytellers. Feel free to take your mute off and tell us what you think.
So what would the difference be if listening was the status quo in your world? How would that have made your life different? I would love to hear.
I
And
think, oh, sorry.
go ahead, Jody.
Okay. I think it's my weakest trait, and I strive to do better at it all the time. My mind goes very quickly, and I sometimes feel like I have the next thought before I've even finished listening to somebody's speech or voice or thoughts themselves. And over the course of years of being aware of this, I've put different practices in place that have helped me attempt to get to a space of what I call listening in the third way, where it's not listening to have a response, but to listen to be present with somebody.
Mm.
And I think that if more people were like that in my world when I was younger, I think that it would have just automatically created safety, right? Because it would be, you couldn't help but feel heard and seen. Because when
Mm.
you are listened to, you are also seen. So I think it's a really important trait.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much for sharing. And what stands out to me too about what you shared is you would have been able to learn those skills earlier in life because they would have been modeled for you, right? And at least I know that would have been true for me as well. So that's profound. Thank you for being so vulnerable. Wanda, do we have any comments or questions in the chat? And feel free if there's anyone else who'd like to chime in as well.
We do. We actually do have. And Shaylin is saying that as an adult, she struggled to share her needs because she was never heard as a child. So she had a similar experience to me. Sounds like she says she didn't have any safe adults in her childhood. So it's been a journey throughout her adulthood trying to learn the basics. I agree. It's taken me a long time too, Shaylin, to work through that, to reparent myself, as my therapist said. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, powerful. Yeah. Fantastic. And that sets us up for what Jill is going to share with us, because we have these insights where we recognize we can't become a listener unless we have that modeled for us. And even in your story, Wanda, you shared about how your healing began and started to accelerate when people in your community began to listen, and those key trusted adults and our friends began to play a bigger role in that listening space. So Jill, you have traveled, you've landed in new communities all the time. share with us what you've learned about safety from those experiences.
Sure. The one thing to think about is the fact that people have different definitions for community, and more commonly, we talk about a tribe. Is it's a smaller community of intimacy when we say this is my tribe. But so community could be a group of people that are small or big. It's really up to your definition, like we've been saying all along, how we define all of these things. But one of the things that I've noticed as I've traveled is there are cues that you can, and when I say traveled, I really mean globally. And you watch for the cues when you come into a new environment to see when it's appropriate to be more outgoing or maybe hold back and watch for a little bit longer. And that's the learned part of the safety. I'm very much an extrovert, and so it's a need for me to be part of whatever's going on. So, if I see a group of people, say a group of women that are chatting and I'm in a new environment, it is not uncommon for me to just go over and try to be part of that community. Now, there will be somebody in that group that will either extend the opening to come on in and join us, or the other, which isn't always easy to take, where they say, "Excuse me, this is a closed group." And so I look for the person that's got the open hand, and I know that that means safety. I also have noticed that there are like people that attract people, in the sense of when you find that the different communities that I've been in. So I was on an Air Force base for the early stages of my life. And so I identify with those people that, were Army brats, as we call us. Well, I was an Air Force brat, but military brats, as we were called for a while. My father was a minister, so I identified with all the people that called themselves those kind of kids, the little rebels that were part of, what's your father really teaching if you're a little rebel? And then I became part of a missionary group. And when my husband was studying, I was the student wife, kind of thing. And so those kind of communities are the ones that are easier to identify with. And we kind of can get our identity by what we call our community. So it gives us a sense of belonging when we do that. I belong to the flourishing community as I'm being trained to be a coach. And so I have an identity with them. When I was a nurse for the 30 years that I was a nurse, I belonged to the medical community. So you get kind of my drift of that. It's a time that these pictures of these women that I've become in a new community with, we come from all different backgrounds and we have all different dreams and visions for what we want for the future. But because we have that common goal of we all want something, we come together and in a community. And I'd like to say that the best thing is about the idea of a system. So a healthy ecosystem is characterized by a variety of species that occupy a specific space. And I have this picture of this path that I've been walking on this trail um, in Dallas, where I was for part of the winter till recently. And what happened with this path was that you could take this trail, there were like 7 or 8 trails, they all led to this meadow, and you would come into this open meadow. So it didn't matter how you got to the meadow. If you wanted the easy trail, then you took that path. If you wanted a workout, you took another path. And sometimes you accidentally didn't know where you're going, and it took you a while to get to the meadow. But hopefully you had somebody that was looking out for you, the community. And when you looked at the ecosystem of this while you're walking on the trail, to watch how the trees and the ground and the birds and the flowers, how it all came together to make the beauty that you see. And that's something that's very important to me. That's my mission, is to help people see that we're all beautiful people. And so, we need to spark that in each other. And that's a way to have a healthy ecosystem. As a nurse, we call it homeostasis. We want our body working well together. And we all know that if one part of our body goes, like my voice, the rest of the body tries to compensate. And so, I think it's essential to understand that we need to have support. And so, even me, the strong extrovert woman that I am, I've had to learn more recently that it's not a sign of weakness to ask for help or to say, is this safe? And so I think I want to make sure that you, the viewers that have tuned in, understand that if we want to be resilient, if we want to live long and prosper, to quote somebody famous, then we want to come together and help each other because, a cord that's made of three strands can never be broken. And that's community.
Thank you so much, Jill. And I really appreciate how you highlighted how, in that ecosystem, everyone has a role, everyone has a contribution, something to give to the community. And we see that in the workplace as well. We recognize, in a workplace, whether it's a factory or, all different workplaces, we all come to that place with a different role in a different place. But sometimes those workplaces are not harmonious. They are not ecosystem-y. They feel toxic, they feel broken, they feel rough around the edges. And I know in my own experience, one of the first jobs that I had, I worked at a local fast food restaurant and I worked at the head office. And it was a very interesting experience. But I had an interesting challenge because the boss that I had to work with was very demanding, very driven, and seemed to think I knew how to read his mind. And so he would come in and have all these expectations of things to be ready for him. And not once did he communicate what he actually needed in that moment. And we get to a place where we are in a workplace and we recognize full well that the communication is breaking down. And I want to offer today that one of the key skills of nurturing safety is the power to coach or to ask questions. And this is why the certified flourishing coaching is so powerful, because this style of coaching can be used in any context. So we're using it in our home and families, we're using it in our community, we're using it to learn about ourselves. And of course, we're using it in the workplace. And so I want to give us a few kind of key tips on why the coaching skill is so valuable for creating safety. And the most important one for me is that a posture of coaching allows us to pursue connection before correction. And I don't know about you, but I have been in environments where I was treated more like a robot and someone to get the job done more than a person. And that drives disconnection. That raises threat. It helps us to feel unsafe in those moments. And if we're responsible, we'll start putting in boundaries to that kind of behavior. But it's not something we're always good at doing. But if we as leaders, parents, staff members, community leaders can start to prioritize connection rather than just coming at fixing the problem, we actually begin to prioritize the value of that beautiful human sitting across from us. And I think that is really, really powerful. When we pursue connection, we elevate the status of the person that's with us. We say to them, being connected to you matters. Dr. Wayne Hammond, who is our senior advisor for flourishing coaching, said something really profound in a training I was taking with him. And he said, people don't want to be fixed. They want to be valued. That rung so true for me in my own experience. I want to be valued. I want my unique skills to be appreciated. I want to contribute all of my quirky self to the world. And when we nurture connection and seek understanding, we begin to build a bridge of trust. And Jill kind of highlighted that notion of when we're kind of stepping into new community, to have a gate instead of a wall. And I love that that kind of picture, because from a gate, we can build a bridge. And from a bridge, we can strengthen connection. We are no longer, apart, but we are actually able to bridge the gap. And the pursuit of connection actually allows us to create space for our own learning, our own mistakes, and our own imperfect communication. I like to joke that the pursuit of connection covers over a multitude of mess ups, because when I desire to be connected rather than correcting or fixing, I can then communicate poorly or make a mess up and step back and say, oh, wait a minute. You know what? I didn't really like how I delivered that. Being connected to you is really important. And I can see that that might have hurt you. Can I try that again? And it really creates an opportunity for and a space for us to grow and to make mistakes and to learn and hold space for each other. So I want us to pursue connection before correction. And when we do that, we nurture safety. Part of that pursuit, in order to be a pursuer of connection, we have to take the posture of the learner versus the knower. Because the knower knows what your problem is and knows how you should fix it. The learner wants to connect with you, understand what you're experiencing, and then learn how to support you on that journey. We're able to be distinct, autonomous individuals in the learner camp, whereas knowership is often about control. And so if we take the posture of the learner, no matter what context we find ourselves, with our children, in the community, even with ourselves, can you imagine if instead of just bullying ourselves and condemning ourselves, we actually got curious and said, I wonder why I reacted that way. The posture of learner puts us into curiosity, which nurtures connection, nurtures understanding, and helps us to be safe within ourselves and to create safety for others. The other thing I really love about the learner posture is that it protects autonomy for both parties. Because it's not me coming in and telling you how it is and telling you what you should do, because I don't actually know. I have some good ideas. Like, I will be the first to admit I've done my fair share of telling. But the older I get and the more I learn, and especially as I've become a certified flourishing coach, I really have begun to understand that for all that I know so little. But all I can learn can transform my life. And that posture of learning opens a whole different world for us. And it allows each of us to take responsibility for ourselves, to own our own behavior, to own our own learning, and to allow other people to do the same. Which then ultimately reduces the potential of me taking responsibility for your decisions or problems. But it allows me, that learner posture, to stay in a place of support without taking on that responsibility. And that is incredible safety. And going back to kind of what Wanda said there, when we're holding space, we're listening, we're learning, we're experiencing with, it really creates this place where, we actually get to discover those paths with ourselves, and we don't do it alone. How many know that you've had those conversations where you did most of the talking and then you walked away because that person listened so well, or they asked meaningful questions and they didn't tell you to do a single thing, but you got to the end of that conversation and you knew exactly what you needed to do for you? That is the power of coaching. That is the learner posture, and it's so powerful. And that leads us to this last kind of skill in the coaching conversation, which is this Socratic, open-ended question. When we get curious and ask questions that don't have a one-word answer or a rhetorical answer, we actually allow ourselves to demonstrate interest and communicate a desire for understanding. We create an opportunity for reflection, evaluation, and analysis. And sometimes a well-crafted question opens the eye of the person who is being asked and helps them make the necessary connections to the learning they are pursuing. And that's really exciting. And I work a lot with young people and emerging adults who are coming in to the workforce. And Socratic questions, those open questions, those exploratory questions become so valuable for our young people. Because even though I have lots of lived experience and I have oodles of wisdom, and let me tell you, I know how they should be doing their job, when I actually set that on the back burner and I ask a meaningful question, I help them to mine from me something wise. I help them make the connections. I help build their critical thinking skills. I help them have confidence in their own ability to discover and solve a problem for themselves. And that is so empowering. The ability to be curious and open, ask those open-ended questions is a demonstration of trust in other people's ability to navigate themselves and ability to process and make decisions. How safe is that? When someone trusts us to land on the right decision, and if we don't, they help us figure out why, that is such a beautiful, safe space. And that is what we want to create in the workplace. We want to create that in our home, a place where we can mess up, we can learn, and we can grow, and we can have soundboards around us that help us to understand ourselves and our circumstances. And there's so many different opportunities for us to practice these skills. And tonight, we have heard about the importance of taking that personal responsibility, really owning our own safety and making sure that we're safe with ourselves first. We have learned the skill of listening and how important present, attentive listening is and holding space. We have learned about the courage that we need to step out and build a bridge and be a gate to others as we are building community, and how to look for ways to build safety within our community and how to be a part of an ecosystem. And we have learned the coaching skills that are so valuable for this process. And so I kind of want to open it up now to a few more questions or comments. Wanda, do we have any thoughts in the chat to get us started? Or feel free to take off your mute. And if you have questions or comments on what you've heard tonight, we'd love to hear them.
We don't have any questions in the chat, but I did have a question for you, Nikki.
Okay.
I wondered if you could give us an example of a Socratic open-ended question, and maybe maybe its impact on you.
Absolutely. Well, one of my favorite, I've got several Socratic questions that are my favorite. My first is actually a statement, and it's tell me more. Tell me more about that. You could ask a question like, how did you come to that conclusion? Tell me what the process was that you went through as you experienced this. What was your experience like? How, there's so many different kinds of questions that we can have. And Socratic questions impacted me specifically at a very crucial time in my life. I was actually introduced to this process during some training that I did for young leaders. We were working on doing training 10 to 13-year-olds in leadership, and it used a Socratic methodology. And it was right at the time when my kids were 10 and 12 years old. And I began to practice on them. I began to ask instead of tell. And I'll tell you, it transformed the relationship I had with my kids. And I'm sold on that way of interacting with people because it allows them to be who they are and allows me to be in the discovery seat of all the gold that's inside of them.
Wow, that's so powerful. Thanks, Nikki, for sharing that. And Eric says that he would like to share something. So go ahead, Eric.
Thanks. Yeah, I was finding my mute button as well. Thanks all for sharing. And speaking of, as you may notice, my last name matches Jill's because I'm her son, but still something that she actually mentioned recently to me that's connected was homeostasis, like this idea of finding balance also requires change. I tend to want to stay in my safe little space in my own little bubble. And but that did make me think of a question for you, Jill. When as I'm working to explore change in new communities, would you have any suggestions or recommendations? So how can I like kind of feel out a new space in a safe way? Or how can I, as a new person in a space, help create safety for other people that are coming in? If those questions make sense to you, that tracks.
Yeah, they do. Let me address the second one first, if I could. So if I'm in a group, I actually watch for those people that tend to be on the outer side. You won't have this experience, but others will identify with the school dance where the boys kind of stood over here and the girls stood over here, that kind of concept. And I can tell you that I wouldn't let that kind of thing happen for very long. I would bring people together if it meant creating a kind of dance like electric slide where you didn't have to have a partner, but we were all on the floor dancing, just to bring people to the floor. That would be me. So I watch for that from the community when I'm in a community where I want to bring people in. On the other hand, when you're saying that you're now standing going, how do I approach a community? It's mostly getting brave enough within yourself to step forward and say your name. Hi, I'm Eric. And your kids, I know you, I'm not Eric, but hi, I would say like, hi, I'm Jill, and I'm just visiting here or just new here. And there will be somebody that will respond to you. They may all turn their backs on you, which would be the sign of, okay, this isn't the group, I'll just move on. But there will be somebody there. There is in every group, there's someone that will turn and invite you in. How far in? That is the part about the gate. So you want to protect yourself. That's why I say a gate. You want to make sure that you've got your own boundaries up so that you don't tell your whole life story in the first 5 minutes, which is the biggest mistake that I would have to say that I used to make. It's like, because the three common things that you tend to be asked, what's your name, what do you do, and where you're from? Well, it was easier when I was a nurse to answer the second question, but the third question is really difficult for me to answer since you know, excuse me. So I tend to say I was in Dallas and then I came to Calgary. Like that's probably how I would have answered that question today. And you would have a similar, because you've kind of globetrotted with me, you would have the similar issue of where are you from? Is it like your passport, your birthplace, where you spent the most, or where you now call home? And so sometimes you can just give an answer because that's kind of the expected thing, or you could just go ahead and tell them a little bit more that you're a global trotter. I think that's a safe thing too.
No, I appreciate that. And it was connecting for me back to safety within self of like, for me to be confident enough in myself that if the group says we don't want you here, that it's okay. That's somewhat that's your loss, but also that's not a reflection on me. But yeah, keeping not trying to force myself into a group either if they don't feel like they are ready for
Right.
my
That's
particular
exactly
style
right.
of special
I love
sauce.
those.
And
I
that's
love
what Luann was saying about your own safety and watching watching the things that are intuitive in yourself to know, like even if I go out for a walk, you'll there's your spidey senses. I know he's a Spider-Man kid. So, your spidey senses tingle. So just be aware of those.
Absolutely. Such a great questions. Love that. And often the value of questions in a new group is so valuable because people love to talk about themselves. And so sometimes getting a question going is a great way to just learn about the people in the group. Great questions. Love that. Do we have more?
Yeah, there's some in the chat, some comments. Norm says, I really like the idea of a healthy ecosystem. It would be great if people within an environment, those who live or work together, would work in supportive, symbiotic, and synergetic relationship and support each other. That was from Norm. Thank you, Norm.
I
And
agree with that.
yes, I agree with that too. I definitely agree with that.
And I think the safety, the nurturing of safety is the beginning of that journey. I think as we nurture safety, that kind of environment can grow, which is what we really believe about here at Flourishing. And I love that observation. Thank you, Norm.
Yes, and there we also have a comment from Jim, and Jim says, I found that trying to build positive working relationships in an ecosystem is more likely to generate positive outcomes through collaboration between individuals. Thank you, Jim.
Yes,
You're welcome.
absolutely.
Do you have
That
more to, do you have more to say about that, Jim?
I just realized that kind of dovetails in with the previous comment that you were just talking about. And it's been my experience that more can be accomplished by working together than any one of us can achieve on our own. So I really do believe in the value of collaboration. And I see that that's what this group is doing here too. Well done.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts or comments about what you've learned tonight? Maybe what are some of the take homes that you want to practice going forward? Any final comments or thoughts? Feel free to unmute and share or throw in the chat.
Charlene has a question. Go ahead, Charlene.
Hi, friends. I'm so thrilled to be here and to see you all facilitating. It's warming my heart, first of all, and I've learned a lot. I would like maybe some suggestions on, I'm finding myself in a, Wanda, I've shared this with you a little bit. I've named it emotional exhaustion. And so I'm in a state of restoration and healing. And one thing I'm noticing is I am in preserving or like sheltering my energy. And this is something that might be, well, it's certainly new for me, and it's probably new for people in my circle, or even acquaintances, like maybe used to showing me up or showing up in a certain way historically forever, and now I'm not. So just curious if I've had a few conversations with people that I love, and everybody is very supportive. I'm kind of wondering about the conversations with people that are just used to me saying yes quickly and diving in and being the listener, and I can't do that right now. So just wondering if there's any suggestions around those particular type of boundaries. Thank you.
So let me jump in, Shar. Let me jump
Perfect.
in. First of all, congratulations. You've already figured out that you need to look after you. Most people don't know that. And so thank you for recognizing where you are today. You are so there for everyone else. You're kind of one of those classic, wonderful human beings that forget about themselves. And so congratulations.
Thank you, Luann.
The next thing is, let's talk about what it means to take that break, to take that breath, and to celebrate that instead of think that you're letting anyone down, including yourself. Let's
Right.
talk about it in a way that, damn, today I didn't do a thing. I didn't get out of my pajamas, and I'm not sorry. I'm absolutely not sorry.
Well, I'll give you a
And
picture of what I look like right now. You'll probably be proud of me.
oh,
See?
hello, there you are. You
Literally
know
in
what?
bed.
You're beautiful no matter where you are.
This is
And
why I've had my camera off, folks.
you took the time to listen to yourself.
Yeah,
Mhm.
You need to just stay doing that. That is your job right now.
right.
That is who you need to listen to. And honestly, you are your best therapist right now.
Wonderful. Wow, that felt like a great amount of permission. And thank you, Luann, for responding in that way. I feel really thankful for that.
It's my joy.
I'll remember this moment.
Awesome.
That's so good. And I would like to offer that you are also worth asking for what you need. Being able to say, you know what, I know I have helped like this in the past, but right now I just don't have the margin or the availability to do that right now. Maybe there's someone else that you could ask. And being able to just say no, just like Luann said earlier, you know, but you are worth asking for what you need. Awesome. Great, great question.
Charlene, something that has come to mind for me for you as you've asked this question is crafting, sitting down and really listening to yourself and crafting a response to these people. Just being really intentional about it, putting the boundaries around you and, just saying, this is where I'm at right now. It's not going to be forever, but this is where I'm at right now. I really need your help and to respect where I'm at. So crafting, being intentional about it is coming to mind. So did that help you at all, Charlene?
Wonderful.
Sorry, thumbs up. Yes, very much. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. And Shaylin, thank you for your question. This is a question for all of us panelists. She says, I have one question for all four wonderful hosts. And her question is, what do you think is the number one most important thing to do if you were going to make one small change towards nurturing safety in your respective area? So maybe we'll go in order of our presentations. Luann, do you want to start?
Well, I'm fond of breathing. And I think breathing is a heck of a good skill. And I don't mean that sarcastically or lightly. I mean that with my heart, because we live in a fast world and we have high expectations of ourselves and others. And we rarely remember to be in peace and to be breathing and to take those moments of treasure where you don't actually have to respond. You don't have to listen to your own brain. Turn your brain off. Just take that time.
Love
Love
that.
that answer. Thank you, Luann. Sorry, Nikki. My answer for that would be, I think it's very important to really listen to where I'm at first. I really love Luann's contribution to this conversation. Listening to myself, because I didn't learn to do that. I learned to put myself aside because of how I was treated. So really intentionally learning to listen to myself is the first step. And always remembering, the other thing is always remembering that I don't have to do anything to listen. I just need to sit by someone and let them talk. I talk a lot about the big balloon. When I am not listened to, it's like this big balloon builds up inside me until it's like almost going to pop. And as soon as someone just sits with me and or just listens, the balloon gets smaller again, and I'm able to take more steps. So that's what I would say. I would remember that and sit by someone and offer my ear to someone.
I
And
love that.
for community, I would say that one of the things that you think about in community is belonging, but belonging starts here, in here. So this wise person said that you belong everywhere and you belong nowhere, but you belong here, which may not answer your question, but take some time to think about that. Is that if you can be comfortable with yourself, as you've heard repeatedly, and if you can learn to listen, those are steps. And then just accepting that as you approach a community, that there may not be acceptance, there may not be an open hand, and just prepare yourself and be okay with that, because we're not for everybody. As much as that's hard, um I'm not, I may not be for everybody. Hard to believe. No, I'm just kidding. But as far as the nurturing the safety, it's really doing a lot of the skills that you've heard, watching, getting curious. Why does that group of people sit together at the lunch table every day, and that group of people, and try to see if there's commonalities with what attracts to you, and then move from that direction. And just again, I just want to reiterate the gate versus the wall. We do want to put up our boundary until it's safe to open that gate and let somebody into our yard, and then maybe into our house, so to speak. But a gate you can still talk, across. Not like Mr. Wilson, where you never see anything except for his, but so that's how I would nurture it in the community.
I love that. And I think, because we can't control in the workplace, we can't control everyone else's behavior. That responsibility of what we can do becomes about us. And for in the workplace, nurturing the skill of self-awareness is really, really powerful. Can I notice when I am feeling elevated? Can I notice when I am short of patience? Can I notice when I'm in knower mode rather than learner mode? Can I notice when someone needs empathy rather than correction? Can I notice body language and micro facial expressions and be tender towards those? Can I notice when I am feeling defensive and maybe want to lash out rather than get curious? That self-awareness and that ability to notice ourselves in the space and in the interactions is powerful in the workplace. And it's powerful for nurturing safety and also protecting your own boundaries within that environment. Great question, Shaylin. Thank you. Any other questions or thoughts in the chat or from our guests today?
No more in the chat. So are there any questions? Feel free to unmute now and let us know if there's any other comments or questions.
Fantastic. Well, thank you all for coming and joining with us today and just embarking on a bit of an adventure to explore this topic of nurturing safety. I just want to acknowledge our panelists today, Wanda and Luann and Jill, for just coming, sharing your heart, sharing your story, sharing your wisdom with us today. And as we close this out, I would love for each of you to just take a moment to let us know how we can be in touch with you and ways that we can maybe learn more from you. And so we'll start with Luann.
What a wonderful time this has been. And thank you everyone for contributing and thinking and being and actually just showing up. Safety does start with you. It's you've heard many different ways how safety is an important component of your life. And let's just start doing it. Let's just reach inside our hearts and our heads and say, I'm worth it. Reach out to me if you feel I can support you in your journey to be the best you in a safe world. Reaching deep within your inside yourself with guidance and reach your own personal safety. I'm Luann Whitmarsh. I'm a registered social worker. My contact information is there, and you can find me on LinkedIn. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you so much, Luann. Over to you, Wanda.
Well, thank you so much, everyone, for your questions, for your attention, for letting us share about safety in different contexts. Appreciate it so much. If you would like more safety in your home or school life, your business, or wherever you are, I encourage you today to seek understanding, counsel, and coaching from trusted sources first. We don't need to practice not listening, but we do need to practice listening. And as such, I offer individual and group strength-based neuroscience-based coaching. I also offer listening workshops and talks similar to this one, where we learn more about listening, and we actually practice it of 3 different lengths: 20 minutes, 1 hour, and 3 hours. And these times also can include, but don't have to include, the screening of my award-winning film, Are You Listening?, which is 20 minutes, or our film Reflections about How We Grieve Differently, and rates are reasonable and negotiable. Your safety, healing, and wellness is my greatest focus. Again, my name is Wanda Reinhold. I'm a filmmaker and storyteller, and you can reach me at bewellcoachingandfilms@gmail.com or wanda@reinholdproductions.ca. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Wanda. Jill?
Well, if you want to have a lot of fun, join my community, and you can find me on Facebook, where my voice probably is. I'm also on Instagram. I just want to explain, I didn't want to highlight myself as the Jill Weatherhead, but there's actually 3 Jill Weatherheads out there. So that's what the is about. The. And my email is jillonajourney@gmail, which says it all about me. I don't have a phone number to give you because, well, I live globally, and chances are when you need me, I won't answer the phone, but I will answer email, and I will answer Messenger, and I will answer however else you want to reach out to me. I am creating a community. And so if you're interested in joining a community, it is specifically right now designed for women who are struggling to find community. And I want to create that for them. So safe place to commune, and however that's going to look. So stay tuned. My course is going to be about learning to get comfortable with, learning to be okay with comfy self. Love that. It's a trip. So I'm Jill Weatherhead, and I hope to talk to you again. And thank you so much, everyone that came to support us in this adventure of the 4 of us.
Thank you so much, Jill. And my name is Nikki Straza. It has absolutely been my pleasure to host this conversation with these incredible women. You can find me at nikkistraza.com. My email, because I really want you to practice my name, apparently, nikkistraza@nikkistraza.com. And you'll find me at Nikki Straza on all the socials as well. Apparently, I'm the only one in the world, so I get to be that little bit of an oddball. So it's fantastic. On behalf of all of us here on the panel, we just wanted to take time to say thank you for being a part of our masterclass this evening. We hope that you are going home with some new tools and some new strategies and new ideas on nurturing safety within yourself, within your family, in your school, within your community, and within your workplace. And we look forward to meeting you on social media and hopefully supporting you in your journey. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Thank you. It was great to meet you all.
Thank you all. Thank you, Jim, for your comment on nurturing safety in our respective areas. I think that taking time to listen to others and hearing what they are saying shows that you respect them. That should open opportunities for more open communication, exploring opportunities, and resolving challenges. I agree with that very much.
Wonderful. Great insight. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Charlene says amazing. So thank you, Charlene.
And I just want to mention, Linda just don't worry that you got late, because there will be a recording. We'll get you a recording of this, and you could watch the thing in its entirety.
Yes, and that's a really good point. And Jody, you looks like you needed to leave early, so there will be a recording we will send out. Thanks for being here, Jody. Linda, do you want to say anything? I see that you are still here. Feel free to unmute and ask any questions you might have.
No, it's okay. I got here late and I will watch the entirety of it and yeah.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for coming, Linda. We really appreciate it.
Okay, and I'm going to stop the share, and we can probably stop the recording as well.
Yes.
You betcha. Hang on. Let me do that.